son, Jacob. Thanks for talking to us. I'm from Screenfish
Hi.
and is excited to get a chance to ask you some questions about this script. I,
Yeah.
I saw that even while you were a student, you were developing scripts, and I'm curious about the things you learned in school that helped you form the kind of stories that you would tell now.
Yeah, I think the great thing about my school experience is I got to write so many different scripts in so many different genres, that I really just tried a lot of different things, from like a weird zombie musical I wrote to like a political thriller drama, tried all sorts of stuff, and it really helped me find my voice and figure out what kind of stories I really was drawn to and wanted to tell. Um, and so, then when I started being a professional writer, it was like I have figured out what I'm good at and what makes me happy when I'm writing.
Well, and it seems like family is from the projects I know that you've written, family seems to be so huge.
Yeah.
Uh, what what about your family growing up informed the kinds of things that you wanted to unpack in telling those stories?
Well, we had a pretty close knit family. It was my mom and dad and two brothers and me, and we moved a lot because of my parents' jobs. They both taught at universities, and so um, growing up, it was sort of like our family unit would be in a new place all the time, but it was like we always had each other and knew each other. And so that, I think, for me, became a really defining just feeling in my life.
Sure.
And then when I was 18, my dad died unexpectedly. And so then that became like, this person who had been, my dad for 18 years and sort of my rock and guide through a lot of stuff, was suddenly gone. And so that for me then became the inspiration for this movie of um, a teenage girl and her dad, and sort of a tragedy that sort of breaks up that family.
So, like full disclosure, I'm actually a full-time pastor who covers film. So, I am potentially around grief and mourning more than the average human being has to deal with it.
Yep.
Um, but I found the fact that even in the midst of the hardship, humor is so important. That's realistic to me. I know that's not everybody's experience around grief, but I'm curious about for you how humor was a means of kind of unpacking the hard stuff.
Yeah. I think yeah, I agree. For me, that's the way that we're able to deal with it. And I think, luckily my family, I think, is someone who is a group of people who in general has kind of a dry sense of humor and doesn't always take things too seriously. And so even though you're traumatized and sad and grieving, yeah, there are moments I remember of like people were coming to our house, and maybe it was a few weeks after my dad had died, like family coming to stay with us, and my mom needed more time to clean, and she like was like in a whole tizzy, and then she found out that the relative's car had like broken down, and she was so overjoyed that their car had broken down because it meant she was going to have more time to like finish cleaning the house. And just moments like that where, and she told me about it and she was like, I needed this to happen, I'm so excited. And finding those like silly moments that are just things fall into place the way that they need to sometimes in the moments that you need them. And yeah, I remember that because it was such a like silly thing for her to be so excited about, that people's car had broken down, but it helped her in that moment. And then it, sort of lightened the situation of like, oh, these people are coming to pay us a visit because my dad died.
Right. So, have you been able to show the movie to your family?
When we had our premiere at Tribeca, my one of my brothers was there, and my uncle, who was my dad's brother, and my aunt were there, and a couple of my cousins. And so it was a really nice experience for me to get to watch it with all of them.
And,
Um,
and how
and
did they respond to the things that you'd written as a process?
they were very I think they were very swept up in it, and I think they loved the story, and they told me, that my dad would have been proud of me, which of course is what I always want to hear. And they said they could see moments that they were like, oh yeah, I can see you in that, or can see your dad in that. So that was really nice.
So, can you give me an example of a scene where you see yourself?
The scene where honestly all the driving stuff, because my dad is the one who taught me how to drive, and it's, I don't think, a necessarily pleasant experience for any teenager to go through. But the scene where Max takes Wally to dance because he knows he's not going to get a father-daughter dance with her was inspired by this moment that I remembered when I was 16 or 17, and my dad and I were home, and there must have been some song playing on the radio, and he tried to dance with me, like pulled me in for a hug and tried to dance with me. And I didn't want to, because I was 16 or 17 and was just like, what is this? What are we doing? Right. But he said to me, and I will remember it for the rest of my life, he kind of jokingly was like, don't wait until your wedding day. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was just like, well, I don't like dancing in public. Like, maybe I won't dance with you at your wedding day, kind of in a joking way. But, then once he died, it was like, oh, he's never going to dance with me on my wedding day. And so that became a moment of, for me, rewriting that moment in history in the script, that like, she does get that father-daughter dance, but he's the one who knows it's never gonna happen for real. So something like that is like pulled from my life, but changed to be in the story that it lives in.
What does it mean for you that I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be a teenager, but that some teenager who's lost or losing their parent could see this movie, and that something that you shared out of your own hurt makes their life better?
It's really, it was cathartic for me to write, and if it offers someone else that same catharsis because they see themselves in it, I think that's really special, and it makes the film more than it makes it more than I wrote it. It makes it more than it was directed or acted, and it makes it like something that is personal to the person watching it, which is really cool. And it's something that, from working on This Is Us for so long, we heard a lot from viewers, that like, this really, I have been struggling with infertility, and your character going through that really helped me. Or like, I was adopted and I have dealt with these issues, and the character's going through that. So I think it always is so touching as a writer to realize that like the things that we're doing, here in my office on my little laptop, ends up helping someone with something from a far reach of the world, is really always very special.
So I would say that writing is cathartic for me, but when I try to explain it to people who don't write, they look at me like I've just announced that I had fun cutting the grass with a pair of tweezers or something.
Yeah.
You're better with words than me. Can you explain why that's a catharsis?
I think for me, it's because it allows me to examine my own feelings, but do it through a lens that doesn't have to be as traumatic, I guess. Getting to write stuff that is fictional but pulling from my real emotions, I get to kind of explore. Even, I don't think when I sat down to write this movie, I knew exactly what themes I was trying to say, but stuff just comes out of you that you didn't know was in there sometimes. And I think that that's really cool. And I know, I've written different things about my dad, some like actual like literal little short things, or things like this that are just sort of like inspired by the feeling of our relationship. And I always feel lucky that in my family I have that as a coping mechanism, because I think it has enabled me. My dad died 15 years ago, and it has enabled me to feel like I'm still close to him, because I am able to like tell these stories and connect with people. And when I say that this film was kind of inspired by this, and the time I went to a nude beach with my dad, many people have been like, wait, one time I went to a nude beach with my parents, and it like starts a conversation that I didn't know was there. And so I think because I can write about things, it gets me the opportunity to talk about them too.
Thank you very much for your time, and best wishes as more folks see your movie.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.